everyone, it's your girl, Miss Anna. I'm coming to you right out of NYC, Harlem to be exact. And I'm going to do my review of P-Valley Season 2, Episode 2. So, it's titled 7 Pounds of Pleasure. And the first scene, we have the auditions for the Pink, which I ain't going to lie, they was a hot mess. Because you have Big Bone, who can't dance worth anything on a pole. But you got two girls named Whisper and Roulette who are excellent at the pole, and they are working it. And you have Mercedes who's like, listen, I'm going to pick Whisper and Roulette, and because Uncle Clifford told me I could pick the third one as well, I'm going to pick so-and-so. But then she's interrupted by Autumn, Night, Hailey, Colton. She going to pick Big Bone. But Mercedes like, no, she's not getting up on my pole. So then Hailey's like, well then, or Autumn, she's like, well then she could work the bar. So we get to scene 2 where Whisper and Roulette, they're chosen. And Big L really wanted Big Bone to work because he's a fan of hers. And Autumn, Mercedes, they basically are going at it. Mercedes like, well, I'm not coaching. And so Autumn's like, but you are a coach. As a reminder of her coaching the Chucalissa Challengers. So out of nowhere, Corbin shows up. And Clifford is like, you're not welcomed here. Now, this is his childhood friend that he kept all his secrets. He don't want to deal with him. But Corbin basically rules out the fact that you ain't got no choice to talk to me. So, what's going on is that there's a company called Clutcher Company and Company Auto Shop. And Derrick has an interview with them for a position as a manager. And what I find kind of interesting is that Derrick, I don't think he definitely didn't graduate from college. But I don't even think he even went to college. But he's going for these manager positions, I think, because he's trying to use his whiteness. When in fact, you got to have experience or education. And I don't think he has really anything. So he's not really humble himself. So Keyshawn is basically washing the dishes when she gets a message that reads, Derrick, we regret to inform you that the managerial position has been filled. So Derrick is filing a complaint against Diamond with Sheriff Bailey. And he's basically saying he put his hands on me. He should be in fucking jail. He should be put in fucking jail. So he's basically, as in Sheriff Bailey's like, I know, I understand. But the city basically they don't feel comfortable filing a complaint against him. But Sheriff Bailey basically says, Lord knows the boy ain't perfect. I was surprised when the dollar store hired him based on his Army record. So basically, it seems like he got a dishonorable discharge for whatever reason. So he's like, charge Diamond with assault and battery, which means that I would have to charge you as well because you hit him as well. So Derrick kicks the whole table over in anger because he didn't get what he wanted. Because Derrick is a racist. So Keyshawn is talking to Sheriff Bailey, and Keyshawn is basically like, I'm so glad murder night is over, and I'm not working at the Pink. So Sheriff is like, well, I hope you're not doing none of that internet stuff, meaning OnlyFans. And she's like, oh no, I got my own eyelash store. And I'm an internet influencer. And I basically, dance online, but I don't do none of that stuff. So he's like, I never thought that one of Uncle Clifford's strippers would be the ones to basically own the Pink. I didn't think he will ever allow that to happen. So he's like, what's her name? Autumn Night. He was like, but what's her real name? So Keyshawn's like, you never ever ask a real name of a stripper. You gotta earn it. So he's like, all right, fine. Now, what I thought was interesting is that he refers to Uncle Clifford as she. And he makes a reference as if she's a woman. Now, here's the thing. A lot of those white men in the South, believe it or not, they like those black men who are not just gay, but they like them really effeminate and looking like non-binary or gender fluid, because it makes them look more superior as a man. So those are known facts. I just want to put that out there. Like, you would think they would be really cruel towards Uncle Clifford, but they actually like people like Uncle Clifford. Now, if that was a woman, they wouldn't like it. I want to say that. But anyway, we get to scene 4, and Mercedes is teaching the new girls about the pole. And she's pretty much still sore from getting shot during murder night. So Whisper is basically like, my scalp will be sore sometimes too. But Roulette is like, yo, I could go to 7-Eleven and get you one of them green bottles. And Mercedes is upset. And it's like, you trying to insinuate that I'm a grandmother? And she was like, I'm kind of just trying to help. So what ended up happening is that Autumn changed the pole. So she got a chrome pole because she basically wanted to, make the place stand out. So she's like, basically, also now this chick is running the place. And so Big L says something very, very poignant. He says, even though she started out as a hoe, even the devil started out as an angel. Meaning that she came from the bottom. And she basically moves up. It may not be good, but she did that. And you got to give her credit. So we go to scene 5 where Clifford and Autumn are talking with Corbin. So Corbin wants to still lease, but he tells Autumn, you basically this chick that's, the owner now. Remember, 5 months ago, you was butt naked trying to make $1 out of 75 cents. And now you rejecting a $500,000 offer? She was like, yeah, because, I want the market value rate. I got needs and desires. And those are $10 million. So 5 years ago, Clifford reminds him, you was a broke mulatto who had nothing. And then he says, well, thank God for dead daddies. And then Clifford says, and dead mayors too. So Andre is in the meeting at the VIP room because he's basically representing Corbin. And so what happens is Clifford says, you think that these promised land folks are still going to be coming to Chucalissa and trying to build a casino, especially after Rona? Please. And he was like, now the people got to vote on it because of me. So the referendum, all the people going to vote on it, because before with Mayor Tydell, it was just going to be a city council. But because of Clifford and what happened end of season 1, the people want a part in it because it was going to be a secret. So Corbin basically is like, well, niggas love to gamble. And Clifford's like, well, I highly doubt they'll come out to gamble in a miserable pandemic. And he was like, a vote for your cracker brother? If the referendum goes through, the pink is off the auction block. And so the pink is now open to basically satisfy everybody's needs and desires. But Corbin's like, it's going to come to a point you're going to need to sell. I will be here, anytime you want to talk. Oh, and by the way, happy 40th, Clifford. Now, Clifford is tight because he's like, I don't want nobody to know about, I'm not in the mood to celebrate my 40th birthday. So Clifford is mad because he's like, the pink is not ready to be open. And so Hailey is the one that wants it open. And he tells Hailey, why would you make those flyers? And she's like, listen, we got to make money. We got to recoup from, the money that I gave you, the $250, that you have only $25K left. And he said, heifer, you might be the owner, but you ain't the boss. And so he's basically like, I'm too much of a cat to be fucked by a kitten. And I was like, yes, Uncle Clifford, yes. So meanwhile, now this was my part. We have Pastor Phony Patrice doing the oh, I love this part. Where the blessings reside, where the blessings reside, where the blessings reside, where the blessings reside. And she basically is singing, and she's opening the Full Tabernacle Breath of Life Gospel Baptist Church. And so they giving out food baskets and hand sanitizers. And this is a commercial. Now, I like the commercial. I ain't gonna lie. I would have basically downloaded it and use it as an MP3, for the song, like a jingle. You know how they have on the radio? Because I'm sure if she would have advertised it, it would have been, kind of interesting. So Ernestine is like, how did this hoe become a pastor? And, she's quarantining because she has diabetes. She's blind. So she's got to be careful. So she basically said, what this bitch going to do now? And you basically going to do the reopening. And so Cliff is like, I'm tired. I got to deal with this bitch Odom. And so Ernestine says, why don't you just kill the bitch? Because you stressing out over this hoe. Just kill her and then move on with your life. Now I'm like, Ernestine, your grandson can't kill Autumn. He'll go to jail. And then the club will really be going under. So what happens is he's very frustrated because he hasn't had dick in 5 months. And she says, well, try 15 years. Well, I don't feel sorry for your ass. So somebody rolls up to pay a visit. And that is Lil Murda. So he basically comes to visit and he's trying to be respectful. And he sees Clifford because he's talking to Miss Ernestine. And she's like, oh, Little Murda. So he coming by to talk to Uncle Clifford, and he sees Clifford is standing behind the door while he's seeing him through the mirror. So he was like, he's kind of upset because he's kind of looking at Uncle Clifford like, he don't want to come and talk to me. So he was like, just stopping by to leave Clifford a message. Been trying to text him, never heard a reply. I should have let him know I should have handled things differently. And, I basically, want him to notice before I go on tour. And so what goes on is that he's going on the Dirty Dozen tour. So what's going on is that we have Andre basically going to town to basically check up on Tydell's home. And he's seeing water being used at Tydell's house. And he's like, what the hell's going on? Like, why are you using my godfather's water where this man pulls a gun on him? And then he's like, we've been using his water for 5 months. Some of us 5 years. And, he pays for it because we can't afford to use it. So he looks at the bills and he finds out that he's been paying $10,000 a month to let these people use his water so that they'll be able to have water in their home. So Tydell was basically the fucking Robin Hood nigga. He was robbing from the city to give to the poor. So there's a video tape that he watches with his uncle, with his godfather when he was a 7-year-old kid, and there's a man named Abraham, which is his father. So the father basically tells him, when he says, I want to be Superman or the president, he says, shut up. You can't be shit. So then Tydell's like, hold up, nigga. Hold on. Shut the fuck up, nigga, and let this boy be who he wants to be. You don't need to show them anything. Just show them that you can be who you want to be. If you want to be president, you could be president. If you want to be Superman, you could be Superman. But you, Abraham, you can kiss my fucking black ass. Now, that's his father telling him he ain't going to be that. But crooked ass Tydell had his back. And this is like 1991, 92. So what happens is we get to see Derrick talking to Keyshawn. And he's like, you went at 12:24 to see Diamond. And Keyshawn was like, I didn't know he worked there. And he was like, don't lie to me. And he's like, well, he yelled at me just a little bit, but I went down there to get, moon pies and stuff. And so she's basically affectionate over Derrick. And he's like, just calm down. It wasn't that bad. So then he calls the cops and says, I want to file another report because this man, Diamond, harassed my girlfriend. And he's gotten a lot of complaints. And he was like, fire him before somebody fires his life. He really hates black people bad. It's bad. So he basically, was angry. And Keyshawn asks him, when I was talking to Diamond at the dollar store, he brought up something. And I said that he brought up a lie about you calling him a gutter nigga. And I said, Derrick wouldn't speak like that. And so she's like, how do you know I went to the dollar store? And he was like, because Sheriff said that you went there and I got your location sent to your phone. And by the way, I've been monitoring your ass. And she's like telling him things are never getting back to normal, Derrick. Even when the opening comes back up. And he's like, she's like, Rome wants me on tour with Lil Murda. And he's like, are you insane? You will get shot before you get the Rona. Or get sick. So he was like, I want you to stay at home. I don't want you working at the Pink. I don't want you working with those little, ghetto people. So she's like, I'm doing this because I want us to get the house that we wanted for the kids, the yard, for Regal and Jaden, the jacuzzi to make love in. And then he's like, tell Rome to come by and we'll talk. So Lil Murda calls DJ Never Scared. I love little DJ Never Scared. And he tells him, why don't you come on a Dirty Dozen tour? It's going to start tomorrow. And he's like, nah, I'm not doing it because I'm working in Atlanta because this producer got fired and they invited me to work on a new track with this rapper named Tina Snow. So he declines. And so he's like, all right. So then he decides to basically roll with Woden. And he basically stops by this prison. So they riding in a hearse that is owned by Woden. Because he owns, the place where they fix the, the people, the muertes. I call them the muertes. So he basically takes him to where he used to stay in prison at. He served his time. So Lil Murda's like, you have me stop by here to remind me of where I once came from. He was like, nah. He's like, I got a surprise. So this light-skinned guy comes out and he's wearing, Gucci colors. And he's basically a hurt village hustler. And his name is Teak. And he was like, you need security. So he's just been released from prison and he's been there for 10 years. So pretty much he's getting out just around the time COVID's hitting. And he's at time for like manslaughter. So they asked him, Wody, why you ain't rocking the red and green? And he was like, somebody gotta be alive to bury you niggas. And I thought that was chilling. So we see this advertisement of Camay's Beauty Supply eyelash line. So this is basically a deal that Keyshawn has. So Rome is at the house, and he's basically telling Derrick the Blue Guap Princess is basically going to travel, and she going to get, a lot of endorsements, and she going to get the best, and she going to get a cut at the door. And so it's going to cover the cost of the tour. So Derrick is like, okay, I don't have an issue with Keyshawn going on tour so much as an issue with her going on tour, Lil Murda, because I don't like how that murder guy be looking at her. So Rome is like, well, listen, I will handle that, but she's basically my main priority. I'm really doing the tour because of her. So he's starting to come around, but he sees that she got children. The son got red hair, and she's basically making over him, and he's kind of feeling like this is some kind of antebellum fantasy, or you could kind of say nightmare that's going on in this scenario at the moment, and he's not comfortable at all. So we basically hear about the pink opening, and Whisper is doing magic. And so what's going on is that there is something going on with the energy of the pink. And Autumn is looking at the pole because she kind of missed dancing. And then we have Uncle Clifford's 40th birthday messages that he's getting, like, oh, happy birthday, Uncle Clifford. And he's not feeling it. So the grandma's like, Grandma Ernestine's like, take the trash out, Clifford. He was like, I just took it out. And so she's like, well, I want you to take out some more. So he takes it out, and then he gets kidnapped by these 4 people. And they make him put this mask on, and then they throw him in a truck. So what's basically going on is that we're at the club for the opening of the pink, and Toya is like telling Autumn, tell Big Bone to not be standing there dancing on top of the stool and on top of the bar, because she going to basically make it a habit for all the girls who bartenders to do this. And that's going to take away their money. So Autumn's like, I'm going to talk to her. So Big L, we find out through Clifford that Clifford's like, oh my God, I don't want to go. I apologize, God, in the name of Jesus. Our Father of heaven, I apologize for being me and Big L held up the bank. And, I'm sorry when I chopped the man's body and threw him in the Mississippi River. And so all of a sudden he he comes out of the car, and they take him out, and it's a birthday celebration for him for his big 40th. So Relly B from Where the Money Reside, and Bad Boys Los Angeles, he's like, a happy birthday. And so they make Clifford the prom queen, and Jessica Betts, who is the wife of Niecy Nash, she's basically, there, and she basically dresses him up or her up, with this, big, crown and whatnot. And they sit Uncle Clifford down. And so we know you didn't go to your prom, but you're going to be the prom king. But king is spelled Q-U-I-N-G, which was clever because it's a mix of king and queen. So he feels lonely because he don't have Lil Murda there, but he sees a guy that looks just like him. So, he's basically, feeling himself. And we cut to a scene where Mercedes is rehearsing with the new girls in the VIP room. So Whisper notices that there's a spirit stuck inside the Paradise room. And it's like this pitch is basically, you can kind of hear it. It's real high, and she hears a spirit of Montavious. So they're planning to make a lot of money tonight. And we come back to the party, and there's a cake that looks like Uncle Clifford. And there's an argument with him and Nineveh. Nineveh is transgender. And Nineveh basically is, she got an issue with Uncle Clifford. So what happens is Uncle Clifford, or I think it was one of the other transgender women, is like, life is like cocaine. No, Nineveh says life is like cocaine. It could be blown any minute. So Nineveh is like, you basically, I'm a person, I'm comfortable with where I am. Because Uncle Cliff is like, you've been getting arrested. You basically could have came to work at the Pink. And she's like, no, none of us, like, you never wanted me at the Pink. And so Uncle Cliff is like, you know how them men are. You knew they was not going to have your kind of person dance at the Pink because you are a transgender woman. So he's like, so none of us like, well, maybe a house mother would do. And so Uncle Cliff is like, come on. So none of us like, listen, I'm a sex worker. I do what I do. And I'm happy where I am. It is what it is. So Clifford sees the man that looks like Lil Murda. And they go and swat to the back. And then the man, we find out, he likes to service. And he was trying to kiss Clifford. He's like, I'm not trying to bring the Rona to my grandmother. So he go down on Uncle Clifford. And that was something. So what happens is, there's a new group at the Pink. And the name of it is no longer the Trinity. But it's Earth, Wind, and Fire. And it consists of Mercedes, Whisper, and Roulette. And they're good. So they're playing Beyonce's 7-Eleven, which I thought was interesting because remember, Roulette offered to go to 7-Eleven to get Mercedes the green alcohol. And when I tell you she got the green alcohol, she hooked her up. She got her 8 bottles. And Mercedes was upset. So what happens is Whisper and Roulette, they tearing it up. They tearing the pole up. And so Mercedes is like kind of feeling herself because she's like, these girls can take my spot. So she basically like, what? Oh, hell no. I'm going to climb up that pole real high. And she climbs up, but her shoulder gives out as she falls on her back. So Mercedes ends up in the office as she's being healed by Diamond. And when I tell you Diamond healed her, he told her, lie on your stomach. And he does a healing remedy. And what he does is he takes out 7 pounds worth of weight that was inside of her body, which was how much the injury weighed. And it said you can't do it without, towering, or you just get the thing out. Something, some shit. So he extracted 7 pounds out of her shoulder. And he's like, you got to use 7 pounds of pressure to pull the trigger. Because remember, she's the one that pulled the trigger. So he saved her. But then Mercedes tells Autumn, I shouldn't have listened to you. You basically risked my life because you wanted this place to be open. So she's basically, telling him something about Montavious. And he told her, this hag ain't gonna be riding me. And basically says, I took her child in and she stole from me. And that played inside of her every night. And I wasn't even ready to dance. And you don't care about nobody but yourself. So you're going to have to go and you're going to have to leave. And so what happens is Autumn's like, but I don't have no. She's like, I don't care. You got to go. So what happens is Diamond is invited by Mercedes, like, come back to the Pink. And he's like, nah, And so we also hear Mercedes is like saying, I brought her and her kid into my house. But then she walked out on me. And like a thief in the night, she says it repeats in my mind like crazy. And so she told her to get her shit out of her house. And she has no choice to do so. So Derrick and Keyshawn, they have sex, which is basically a finesse way of being able to go out on tour. And she basically finds out well, he basically finds out that he didn't get the job. So he's like, we've been so good. We haven't argued in fought in days, which means he ain't bust her ass. So Lil Murda, she's like, you're going to have to trust me with this, okay? And so he's like, no problem. So she ends up going on a tour. And Hailey, she has no choice but to live at the Pink. And they play Durando's I'm Lonely, which is perfect because she doesn't have any friends, not even Andre. And she drinks and dances on the pole because she misses it. And she's actually gotten better. But Andre arrives and he was like, why you here? And the doors are opening, early basically. And she was like, nah, I ain't got no place to live. Pretty much. So he's named executive of Tydell's estate. And he, accepts, an offer to drink. And he's like, basically, stay ready to roll, Hailey. And he basically sees that Hailey is kind of cold. But Hailey hugs Andre. And then we see Keyshawn, prepares to leave for the Dirty Dozen tour. And she hugs her children. She gets inside the car. And we notice that she sits next to Lil Murda, in between Lil Murda and Rome. And she's looking, mischievous. And it ends there. And I gotta say, I love the show. And season 2 was excellent. I gotta say. I love season 1. Season 1 will always be special because it was something that we all saw during, lockdown, quarantine. And it got us through. It got me through for a lot of reasons. And it made me, be proud to be from the South, to be honest. And I didn't know they had fun like that in Mississippi. I'm going to be honest with you. But I'm going to sign off. Make sure you share, like, comment, subscribe. And hit the notification bell to receive future notices on various content. And I'll be back later. Take care and good night. I need to drink me some Gatorade because it's hot.